It's literally like, wow, they almost, yeah, she should have said, Trump doubled his support. If the worst way to say that would have been Trump basically doubled his support in the Bronx from 2016 to 2020. Fridge.
All right. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump is set to make a stop in the South Bronx tonight at 6 o'clock, right on the doorstep of AOC's district, where no Republican presidential candidate has won that district in 100 years.
Thousands of supporters are expected to turn out as a new Siena poll has the former president now within single digits of President Biden in the Empire State.
Left-wing demonstrations are already being planned to try and counter the former president's visit, like that poster that you see right there, seen circulating on social media, claiming that Trump is, quote, not welcome in the Bronx.
Well, somebody who is welcome in the Bronx is Rachel Campos Duffy. You know her from the Weekend Show, and she was out in the Bronx yesterday just essentially taking the temperature of the neighborhood to see how people are going to receive former president.
Absolutely. I stood on a corner, walked up and down a street with our crew, and just talked to dozens of people.
Is it similar to Wisconsin, where you came from?
No? I'm an Arizona girl originally.
Okay,
so,
good.
You know. Listen, here's what was interesting. I mean, there's no question that the Bronx is a solidly blue area. But when things get bad, people are more loyal to their neighborhood. They're more loyal to their family. And that's what the sense that I got. There's also a pride in the Bronx, you know. I know AOC said, you know, Donald Trump, you know, it's an embarrassment that he has to go to the Bronx, you know. These people took that offensively. Right. They're happy he's coming down. They want him to see what's going on. They want him to get a temperature. And that's the thing. You're seeing these polls that show Hispanics and African Americans moving towards Trump. It just feels like data.
Right.
You go into this, you go there, you actually talk to the people. It really brings it home. You really feel that the polls are right. And I think Donald Trump is going to be very pleasantly surprised by how welcomed he is in the South Bronx. Take a look.
Yeah, bro, they love him there. They do. Yeah. This one poll shows him within striking distance. Striking distance is like at least single digits. Okay. It's so awesome. Like, come on. They already are like trying to dance around it by being like, it's not like Wisconsin, am I right? Like, they're already simultaneously gearing up for how they're gonna say all of these guys are gay and they're all brown and they don't get it. But also they're like, but you know, Trump is very popular amongst the gays and the browns in the Bronx, you know? Come on, dude.
I see Democrats now coming out and they're like, oh, Trump is not welcomed here. Who are you?
I think he should definitely come to the neighborhood.
He should come. He should check out the people because, see, Trump is for the little man.
Donald Trump is coming to the Bronx. Are the other boroughs going to be jealous?
That's awesome. Yeah. I think in this interview, they interviewed every single person that has voted for Trump in the Bronx. Okay? Like, virtually every, like, when I say every single person, I'm not exaggerating. I think like literally every person that they could find that actually issued a vote to Donald Trump in 2016 or in 2020, they interviewed here, all of them. It's like someone said in the chat, I don't know if it's true. Someone said like he wants 16% of the Bronx in 2020. Like, come on. Come on, dude.
I don't know, but I hope so. Trump is doing something that no one else has done. He's giving such a respect to the Bronx.
Before Trump, you know, it was not really considered. Like, would they really go into the Democratic strongholds? Would they really go into the poor neighborhoods?
One of the very important things that I wish the Republicans would understand is that even though you have, and you look at the registers and you see how many registered Democrats are in the Bronx, and you say 80, 90% are all Democrats, not all Democrats vote Democrat. I happen to be one of those Democrats that hasn't voted Democrat since the age of Ronald Reagan.
I've been intrigued by the impact of the trial of Donald Trump. And as a Hispanic myself.
Bro, then you're not a Democrat. What do you fucking mean? Like, that is the most insane, bro. Bro, what are you saying? Let's see. Bronx, 15.6%. They literally asked every person they could find, bro. That's awesome. The median American voter is beyond human comprehension. Yeah, no, I love Americans talking about politics because, like, you get such a good snapshot of how fucking busted our system is. She's like, yeah, I haven't voted for the Democratic Party since like the 80s. But I'm a registered Democrat. It's like, what are you saying? No, you're not. You've been voting Republican since before I was alive. You are not a Democrat. What are you fucking saying? Bro, she's been voting Republican before AOC was alive. Okay? Like, she said 4 decades without a shred of irony. For 4 decades, I've been voting reliably Republican as a Democrat. And it's like, okay, I don't know what to tell you then. That's
Democrats that hasn't voted Democrat since the age of Ronald Reagan.
I've been intrigued by the impact of the trial of Donald Trump. And as a Hispanic myself, it looks familiar to a lot of things we've seen in Latin America.
Absolutely. I know a lot of friends of mine that are Cuban, and they're frustrated.
Yeah.
Cubans, you got Nicaraguans, they see this in their country. That's why they left.
I happen to be one that I'm still asking, what is he being charged with? What is he being charged with? I'm still trying to figure that out. And so I think it's not just me because, you know, we're not dummies, okay? Even though Democrats sometimes treat...
She's like, we're not dummies. Even though I just said I've been a Democrat my whole life, except for the past 40 years. I've been a Democrat since I was fucking an eligible voter. I've been voting Republican, which is why I'm a Democrat, but I'm not a dummy.
Treat us like we're dummies?
People that weren't interested in politics, now they're watching a sham trial. They're watching all these things happen, and they're just like, what is going on?
That is good. Rachel, I know a number of New Yorkers appreciate Donald Trump because he's a New Yorker. And even though he now lives in Florida, but he understands what it's like to be in New York City.
Yeah, they feel like he's one of them. And he chose their area, their neighborhood, to come visit. And, you know, you see all the organizers out there putting up posters saying, you're not welcome here, Donald Trump. I did not get 1 ounce of that from when I was down there. I was literally shocked by how open-armed they are. And by the way, some of these people mentioned the trial. The trial, I think, is a double-edged sword for the Democrats, especially with Hispanics. It's like, you know, you have them trapped here in this kangaroo court. Guess what?
It's an icebox.
Yeah, some of them are noticing that it's a kangaroo court. And if you're from Latin America, you've seen the politicization, the weaponization of the justice system against opponents in this way. You left those countries because of that kind of corruption and Marxism, frankly, and they're seeing it happen here, and they're not dumb. I know maybe a lot of Democrats think that this is, you know that they're setting some sort of narrative here. People are seeing, as she said, we can't even figure out what he's guilty of. And then they said to me, he's on trial there. We got problems here. We've got crime like we've never seen before, and it's because of the open border, which was another shock to me, is how much the border policies were mentioned almost universally by everybody.
We got about 82,000 people here illegally. We are housing and we're feeding. Yeah. We're trying to kick them out after 30, 60 days, and they're not leaving.
Well, they're not on the Upper East Side. Right. They're going to the Bronx.
Right, and they're taking over the parks where their kids play.
That's exactly right. And that's what they said. They said, you know, our service, we're poor. This is a working class, poor neighborhood, and our services are being strained, or they're literally cutting our own services and giving it to other people who came here illegally. So that was really an interesting thing. And they're associating the rise in crime to Alvin Bragg, but also to many of the illegals.
Let's see if the president keeps it short and crisp tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be very interesting to see how he does it.
6 o'clock tonight. It's in a park in the Bronx called Crotona Park. Lawrence is going to go up there. He's interviewing the former president.
You know what they told me?
The open border in New York is causing crime. Yeah. That's right. We're not dumb. They're not dumb. Methinks they doth protest too much. Yeah. I love that. I love the idea of being a New Yorker and being like, we hate immigrants around these parts. It's like, bro, like, what are you saying? Do you hear yourself? Like, what are the words coming out of your mouth as a person who lives in one of the most diverse places on the fucking planet? Okay? That's right. Ellis Island was a woke gender conspiracy.
Of them said it's epic.
They were doing woke gender at Ellis Island. Them goddamn immigrants ruined New York.
Typical. So, they, you know, in Spanish and English, they're saying this is historic. Thank you for coming to our district, or to our area. So I think it's going to be a very interesting thing to see today. And it will be great if Lawrence actually, you know, gets a chance to interview some of these counter protesters to see if they're AstroTurf. Because what I saw was if they're from the Bronx, they're open. They're open to ear, open armed right now.
And we put up that poster that showed the organizers. Yeah, over a dozen and a half different organizations. Yeah. If they don't wind up with a bigger crowd than Donald Trump,
it would be embarrassing.
It would be embarrassing for them because they've got the entire New York City area with a lot of people at their disposal.
There's a lot of dark money funding these kind of protests. It's the same kind of stuff. This is the same group that came, you know, with BLM and so forth. This is George Soros funded. That's who's behind this. The people on the street are saying, come, see what it's like here. Listen to us. And they're so honored that somebody like the President of the United States, who they consider an outsider and a new fellow New Yorker, is coming to their neighborhood.
I don't want to make this all about me, but it's just the same week that the Pope takes shots at the Irish and the Italians, immigrants. At the same time, President Trump is giving such respect to the Hispanic community. There's a big dichotomy.
There is.
Well, if you look at the
Pope was talking about whiskey.
Because he said the Irish brought whiskey to America and the Italians brought the mob. I mean, those are all my people.
That's the shot.
Right. It's unbelievable.
Hey, Rachel, thank you very much. I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
Let's discuss with NBC News correspondent Von Hilliard, Christina Greer, professor at City College of New York, and Susan Del Percio, Republican strategist and MSNBC political analyst. So thank you all for being here. Von, explain to us why Trump is campaigning in this extremely blue district today.
So number one, he thought that he was going to have trial today in Manhattan, and so his campaign went forward with planning this South Bronx event. At the same time, Donald Trump has been...
As a Hispanic, I gotta say, Trump being willing to stoop to ask brown people for money makes me feel really heard and understood. That's what I'm talking about, dude. I mean, it is symbolically important. I won't discount that. Okay. I do think that it's symbolically important for Trump to go to the Bronx. I think that I think that it is hilarious to act as though it's hilarious to act as though, you know, he has any kind of real fucking support out there. He doesn't. They're probably shipping motherfuckers in, as Chris Hayes correctly pointed out, from Westchester and Staten Island to just like go and force. Model of your mini fridge. I want to Google. I don't know. How we can keep the creators for Palestine link when AOC is on? Yes, of course. Very sad to see they use socialism to scare off Hispanics to vote Republican. No, there's no... Brother. Motherfuckers would be like, I can't believe the unjustifiable kangaroo court in my country of Nicaragua, where I did unimaginable war crimes before flying on an American military plane to the United States of America. It's just like, okay, dude. Yeah, no, kangaroo court for you that you evaded specifically for being aligned with the American State Department. Like, get the fuck out of here. There are always going to be reactionary conservatives, oftentimes direct fascists, that have escaped into America after doing their fascism. And
he sees polling that indicates that he's able to make some inroads, particularly with black voters. He receives a record number for black voters of 12% in the 2020 election, a record for a Republican nominee in recent decades. At the same time, polling is indicating, some polls up to 20% of black voters suggesting they could vote for Donald Trump. But this is where it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him, because there's a difference between dissatisfaction with Joe Biden now and a reality that 5 months from now we're in a very different place, and being dissatisfied with Joe Biden and voting for Donald Trump. There's a big gap that, frankly, history has not provided, even in recent elections, even in 2022 midterms.
But even a little bit can make a difference, right?
It can, and here's what's really interesting. First, the Bronx elected its first Republican last year to the city council, the first one in 40 years. So just putting that out there, that a Republican won a seat for the first time in 40 years. And I'm not suggesting, by the way, Donald Trump's going to win New York. It's not going to happen, but it goes to a bigger issue for the Biden campaign. Donald Trump did 7 percentage points better in the Bronx in 2020 than he did in 2016. Biden did...
Yeah, 7 percentage points, as in went from 9 to 16. Went from 9 points to 16 points. Please, if you do not recognize that, if you do not mention that, what good are you as a political commentator? It's literally like, wow, they almost, yeah, she should have said Trump doubled his support. If the worst way to say that would have been Trump basically doubled his support in the Bronx from 2016 to 2020. Okay, that's the least that's the least honest way of mentioning it. Biden will lose. Seems our corporations and media want Trump to win and Biden to lose, increase their profits, forget the people. I mean, a second Biden term is not exactly spelling positive things for the American working class either. It's just, as always, as is the case almost always in American elections, how bad do you want things to be?
Worse in New York City in 2020 than Clinton did in 2016. So the narrative that's out there that these communities are not getting the attention and that they probably should get from the Democrats if they want to increase turnout is very significant. And while Vaughn is absolutely right, Donald Trump's doing this rally not to win over votes, but because he thought, you know, it's a good press hit. Okay, fine. He can have that, but there is a message in the numbers for Democrats, not in New York City per se, but if it's on the margins, those swing states, it matters.
Well, this is the message coming from Congressman Richie Torres, who is in this specific district in the South Bronx. He says there is no greater enemy than Donald Trump to his district, and that his district will not buy the snake oil that Trump is selling. And here he...
I don't get it. I thought Richie Torres should welcome Donald Trump, who is one of the more popular figures in Israeli politics. It's shocking to me that Richie Torres is so anti-Trump when they align 100% on Israel. I thought that was his most pressing issue. That was his most significant political footprint, was defending and dick riding Israel unconditionally. How strange. How strange now that he's criticizing Donald Trump, when on the one issue that he cares about, they're aligned 100%.
Was earlier on Morning Joe.
Donald Trump is so unpopular as to be radioactive. You know, he's even less popular than arsenic in the Bronx. So I'm confident that the Bronx is going to overwhelmingly support Joe Biden. If Donald Trump did not have a criminal trial in New York City, he would never be caught dead in the Bronx. And as far as I'm concerned, the only place in the Bronx where Donald Trump has any place being is Bronx Criminal Court.
Christina, do you agree with Congressman Torres there, or could Trump's visit help him make inroads in these voting blocks that have been more traditionally Democratic, like with Black or Hispanic voters?
Right. Congressman Torres does have a point. I mean, the real reason why Donald Trump is going to the Bronx is to say to the Democratic voters of the Bronx, has Joe Biden been here? right? You all keep voting democratically, but I'm the one who's actually coming to visit you. Now, he's not saying it's because I got to stay close to home, which home is the court, but he's also trying to, I don't think he necessarily thinks he's going to get Black and Latino voters to vote for him. The strategy is to get them to abstain from voting for anyone on the top. And that's where it matters, not just in New York, it matters in places like Milwaukee, it matters in Detroit, places where Joe Biden has less favorability, but also we're in a moment where, as Vaughn said, we have some time, right? Joe Biden needs to make the case to Black.
This Turkish dude, yeah, this is really funny. The Turkish dude that crossed the border.
Did you have to?
I love this. I love the Turkish guy who crossed the border and instantly asked for better border control. Yeah, Turks just like a challenge, dude. You don't understand. Well, let's finish the Trump Bronx shit, and then we'll get to some other stuff.
Black and Latino voters, and I should say Black male voters. Black female voters tend to be completely immune to what the Republican Party is selling. But we always see Black male voters voting a little bit more for the Republican Party than Black female voters.
It's so marginal. It's like the only reason why it's important to recognize is because the Democratic Party's actions are so repulsive to many former demographics that would be like where it would be unconscionable to vote for anybody else. That's it. Anything outside of that, any way to make it seem like there's a pendulum swinging in the other direction is silly. Because like people refuse to recognize that like the percentages that they're talking about are so minuscule. It's actually quite shocking that they don't talk more about another demographic that has actively been, important to the Democratic Party winning elections in many places in the country. Young voters. There, Trump is actually beating Biden, which is shocking. That actually is shocking. There are polls that keep showing that Donald Trump is performing better with young voters than Joe Biden. That part is legitimately shocking.
But the real reason that Donald Trump wants this is to make sure he sort of suppresses the vote by Black male voters in the sense that he's not expecting them to vote for him. Now, I will say, I don't know if New York is definitely a blue stronghold. All states are red states. We just have blue cities in red states. New York is the reason why Joe Biden didn't have unified government in 2022. We're the ones who lost the 4 members of the House who went over to the Republican Party. So, yes, it seems like a long shot that, Donald Trump would ever win New York. But looking at those Lee Zeldin numbers in 2022 does make me realize that there are a lot more Republicans and dissatisfied Democrats in the state of New York than we'd like to admit.
And beyond, obviously, New York, too. And I've talked with voters, especially from the Hispanic community. There have been complaints that they don't feel really heard or seen, that they feel taken for granted by the Democrats. But let me turn to the other big political news that we have this morning, and this is an endorsement, the announcement from Nikki Haley about voting for Trump. Vaughn, she was really, really critical of Donald Trump during...
Oh, it's so shocking, guys. Who could have foreseen this? Guys, who? And I mean, who could have foreseen this? That's crazy. That's crazy. Who could have foreseen it? Who was saying that, like, Republicans always fall in line at the end of the day, no matter how much they criticize Trump.
During the primaries, and she's changing her tune.
It's like, bro, you're only shocked because you're just living in a fucking bubble, okay? That's it. That's the only reason why you're shocked. I don't even think these guys are shocked. I think they're just playing a role. It's theatrics. It must be. I can't imagine, like, the level of stupidity that you have to operate on. It's like, how is this shocking?
preface this, if we could, with the fact that Nikki Haley's already done this before. In 2015, she equated Donald Trump to being a kindergartner during the 2016 primary campaign, and then she ended up going and serving in his administration as UN ambassador. But this year, it went to the next level. She called him unhinged. She called him toxic. She said that the most harm he's ever possibly had is getting hit by a golf ball when he's sitting in a golf cart. She's called him chaotic.
She said so many meanie bobini words this time. It's just like weird.
Suggesting that chaos follows him. I don't want a president who is going to praise dictators. He's weak in the knees about Putin. She's questioned his memory. She has blasted the amount of debt his administration incurred. He took a shot at her husband when he was deployed overseas in Africa, and she went on to call it disgusting, awful comments. This is somebody in Nikki Haley here, though, who is understanding that the power structure lies with Donald Trump. And last night, heard to the Hudson Institute saying that she would vote for Donald Trump. She said it because the Biden administration, her words, have been catastrophic. And so this is what we saw Ted Cruz do 8 years ago, Marco Rubio.
Wow.
Right? If you continue to want to have a place of relevance in the Republican.
But we want a strong Republican Party. I don't understand. And she is. We want a strong Republican Party, and she is a representative of said reality. She is the perfect representative of a strong Republican Party. This is what you wanted, Democrats. I don't understand. Meanwhile, thank you, Themacius, for that link. A group of Nikki Haley voters from Vermont to Arizona met with President Joe Biden's campaign on Wednesday night, almost immediately after she announced their plan to vote Donald Trump, the Daily Beast has learned. Thank God. Thank God we're courting the right voters, all fucking 10,000 of them total in every state. Oh. Reddit Libs used to say Nikki should be Biden's VP. Yeah, that's why you get your political commentary from me. Okay? I hope. And every single other dumbass that is basically repeating whatever the fuck they heard on MSNBC looks like a fucking idiot all the time. Not that it matters, because people are not looking for genuine analysis. They're not looking for critical analysis at all. They're looking for someone to literally tell them that things are fine. Functionally, they want to hear someone sing them a lullaby. They want to go to sleep. They want to close their eyes as you whisper sweet nothings into their ears. Anyway, the court is actually, yes, helping Trump, potentially keeping him from doing even dumber shit with that time. That is actually the one aspect of the court that has been saving Trump's ass a little bit, because it limits the amount of campaigning that he can do, and it limits the amount of camera time that he has. So when he's not on camera and the Democratic Party is like openly committing political suicide, okay, this way everybody continues to focus on Joe Brandon and how shit he is. The title of this Atlantic article: Nikki Haley surrendered, but not her voters. Republican primary voters turned to Haley to oppose Trump, and their commitment hasn't changed. By none other than David fucking Frum. Never Trump Republicans. We got this in the bag. Fuck it, dude. I think they should just cut out Kamala Harris and put Nikki Haley in the bag. And then Joe Biden dies so we can have a Republican female president. That's how you arrive at the first ever Republican president, or that's how you arrive at the first female president. Okay? You cut out Kamala Harris, you put Nikki Haley as the VP, and then Joe Biden dies. Okay? And then boom, first ever female president is a Republican.
He is not the right person to come and talk about affairs in the Middle East at this moment.
The views of Nikki Haley Republicans, pro-Ukraine, pro-Israel, pro-market, reflect all those things that Republicans used to think in that bygone era, when Reagans and Bushes and Romneys roamed the earth. But few feel any emotional bond to Haley. If she gives a Ted Kennedy-style dream she'll never die speech at the Republican convention in Milwaukee this summer, they won't tear up. They'll wonder what the hell she imagines she's talking about. Most of Haley's supporters voted for her as a way to stop Donald Trump. The number of people that did this is so marginal. Oh my God, it's tiny. It's minuscule. She didn't win in a single fucking state. Or wait, she might have won in one state. Did she win in a single state? I don't think she did. I don't even remember, because that's how forgettable her fucking campaign was from the jump. But the Brandon camp has openly stated their desires. They care more about the white voters in the suburbs. They care more about the white voters in the suburbs who are otherwise reactionary, who are otherwise Republican, but hate the aesthetics of Donald Trump. And they care more about courting those people instead of like actually trying to make real promises, demonstrate in good faith that they will carry out former promises that they've made. Take tangible action against the genocidal apartheid regime of Israel, things of that nature that would actually, I think, reinstitute, regalvanize a lot of support in not just the United States of America for the Democratic Party, but like literally from the international community. Isn't that a powerful political bloc, to be fair? It's not necessarily a powerful political bloc. It's more so a political bloc that if you align with, you have to dramatically change your policy prescriptions, which the Biden campaign is doing. It's no mistake that you are seeing them consistently communicate their desires for more restrictive immigration processes. Like that is a direct way to try and win over educated white racist voters. Okay? That's it. And Biden is winning in that demographic now. That is actually a true change, a real change. Problem is, those guys will still go and vote for the suited up Republican inevitably. When you do not fulfill that desire that they have, and many of them won't even vote for you because they will vote for the guy who maybe they don't like the aesthetics of, but is like openly saying, we are going to do tax cuts again. We are going to do deregulation again. You know?
Republican Party in the Trump era, you must maintain an allyship and at least be somewhat close to Donald Trump. And Nikki Haley, just like she did 8 years ago, is doing that here again.
Are you surprised by this about face, Christina?
Not at all. They all fall in line ultimately. And so, as Vaughn has clearly laid out, I mean, I was never surprised. It was only when would Nikki Haley fall in line and support Donald Trump? I mean, when you're dealing with so many people in a party who have no shame and they're following someone who has absolutely no shame, this isn't a surprise. I think not only will we see her support him and say that she'd vote for him, but we'll see her actually actively assist him in trying to become the next president.
She hasn't gone that far yet, but I do want to play what she has said to just really demonstrate the evolution. Susan, Vaughn quoted her quite a bit, but listen to her in her own words.
I will be voting for Trump. Having said that, I stand by what I said in my suspension speech. Trump would be smart to reach out to the millions of people who voted for me and continue to support me and not assume that they're just going to be with him.
So she has previously called Donald Trump unstable, unhinged, said he wasn't qualified to be president because of his disrespect for the military and her concern over whether he could protect those men and women serving overseas. But, so I'm wondering, Susan, does she expect the people who have agreed with her in those previous comments and have voted for her for that reason, to suddenly follow her lead and vote for Trump now?
Well, I believe that, especially after she suspended her campaign, the people who voted for Nikki Haley are the same small percentage, about 5% of those who voted in numbers-wise in 2020, who were Republicans against Trump. These were anti-Trump votes, not pro-Nikki Haley votes.
I just want to say, in terms of percentages, 27, approximately around 25 to 27%, maybe sometimes lower than that, of the youth vote actually ends up voting for either party. Okay? So in terms of like the number of voters that you could potentially win over, I mean, Bernie Sanders also failed, right, in this regard. But there is an unimaginable amount of young voters you could potentially court. Okay? 5% of these voters that have voted in this demographic that loves voting is inconsequential in comparison to that. The idea that we do not try and actively court, the idea that the Democratic Party does not try and actively court young voters is crazy. We've completely given up on the youth vote. We act like it doesn't exist. And then all we do in terms of like reaching out, in terms of outreach, is basically just go, ugh, you dumb fucks never vote. Fuck you guys. Just go out and vote, you fucking idiot. Like, that's not going to work. It's stupid. Anyway.
And that's where she gets a little confused, I think. But what's also really important is to keep in mind is last week she had a donor retreat. She did not make that comment without running it by them and knowing her political future. So it seemed acceptable for her to get away with doing something like this with her donors. So she went ahead and did it.
All right. Thank you so much, Susan Del Percio, Von Hilliard, Christina Greer. Great to see you all.